Audio recording? Okay, video recording. And 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Zen Callsigns, and I have an amazing guest today, Will Travis. He's a world-renowned branding expert, leadership, influence, a high-level, creative, genius. Yeah, I could say that for him. And then a good, interesting transition into understanding authenticity, vulnerability, and that's why we're here now as an interesting, dynamic person. And so I'll hand it over to Will. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And so as we typically do, I'd love to jump into, kind of a young Will culminating moment, wherever that is, whatever it is, because I think that's, again, going directly into that vulnerability. And I think that's a superpower. And we kind of chatted a little bit about that before. So I'll hand it over to you to get us going. So, where are you? What are you doing? What are you thinking?
Well, just when you said young Will, and it's probably the first time I've ever thought it, I suddenly imagined myself back when I was 8 years old with this bad pudding bowl haircut. And I had a big V in the front. And I kind of grew up in a very simple childhood household. And my mum used to cut my hair.
Yep.
As well as use the same scissors for the dog as she would with the bacon.
Yeah.
It was that, that's when you said the young Will, that was the picture that came. So I don't know what the trigger was with that, but where am I at now? Or what's the,
then,
where am I then? Yeah. I think of the old house that I grew up, it was called Stoneroyd, and I moved there. My father and my mother and my 3 older sisters moved there before I was born. But when I was born, my father was dying of cancer. He got cancer of the ileum, and he was only 6 months to live. So when I was born, he was at home very, very sick, and my mum kind of was running around the bedroom trying to get me out at the hospital so she could get back on the bus with me that day to be with my father. And 6 months later, he passed. But I took on his name, and a lot of the legacy stories and the imagination and the impact that a lost parent can put on a child, I became the new vessel for his legacy. And so I've always lived with that. And it's my childhood was very joyous. We talked earlier about our solo time and just having time alone.
Yeah.
Again, another trigger. I just remember spending a lot of time as a kid hiding in a bush in the garden and sitting in there.
Wow.
And feeling very happy.
Yeah.
And spending a lot of time on my own, sliding down ropes from trees. I used to get the gloves out of the cupboard that we kept for the cold, for winter. I used to slide down the tree until the gloves wore out, which used to get me a good kick in when winter kicked in, when all the gloves had no palms.
Yeah.
But a lot of solo time, a lot of reflection, and having 3 older sisters and a very strong mother and very strong grandmothers. All the men in the family had passed. I spent a lot of time listening because I really couldn't get a word in edgeways because the women were all just like connecting and bonding and chatting. And so I became a great listener, I think.
Yeah,
and
I can imagine.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
So I think that was my childhood, just very simple, straightforward, until the age of 11. And then I went off to boarding school. My stepfather, who's a spectacular saint, was a headmaster, and he had a little bit of money that he'd saved over time, and my mum was doing physiotherapy. And I went off to boarding school at 11. Luckily got in there. I don't think I passed any of the entrance exams. I don't know what my mum did to get me in, but started away from school because she said, you got to go and understand what it's like being with men and boys, and stop wearing that dress. But
how do you
put the doll down.
How do you think that sets you up? Because it sounds like it wasn't a matter of like you're a boy growing up 11 having an issue of masculinity, femininity. Like you're just living, and doing it. And so when you had that transition of being around all women, listening, I feel like in a way it probably set you up well for that just masculine, raw environment of adolescence.
Yeah.
What do you think? How did that work?
100%. I think the energies in a household of women that are also 2 years apart So there was a very strong, dominant elder sister, a middle sister that was the typical, usually picked on or ignored because she was in the middle, and then the younger sister that was getting away with the troublemaking because the older sister, when she left home, it was a relief that she'd gone because of the energy brought to a household, to a mother that was trying to keep a young household together with not much money. Because when my father was an inventor, and so he was a very creative, quiet man, and we had this house, but even when he passed, we struggled for money. So we used to, I don't even know the name of the bloke, but there'd be a local guy would come around and check, because you were getting subsistence from the government, checked what we were doing for money. And I remember Mum would pass the furniture over the fence to Mary next door. So when they came to the house, there wasn't much furniture because we'd inherited some furniture. And we had lodgers. I remember my sister saying, where's the dog? And Mum's like, what? And she said, well, there's a tin of dog food over here. Where's the dog? And Mum didn't have enough money to feed the lodgers, so she was making shepherd's pie from dog food.
Wow.
Which is supposed to be edible anyway. But there was a real survival, but it was never done by pity me, poverty, struggling.
Yeah.
I used to spend most of my childhood sitting on the swing that was in the kitchen, or hanging by the loop ropes in the kitchen, just while Mum cooked and looked after the house.
I was thinking to that point is like, how do you, because I have a little different, but I have memories of, growing up, and much to my parents' chagrin of like, not a lot of money. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, it's okay. But it's just a difference that I see in, that 11-year-old, so quite a while ago, in similar time frame. Yeah. Where that grit, that understanding of what money is in value, or like what real value is in today. In our kids, I feel like it's difficult to instill those types of
it is.
ideas.
But what triggered when you said that was that as a child, and it's similar to, we have a 14-year-old, I didn't have a conscious thought about money as a kid. I didn't go, are we rich or poor? I remember somebody else had a nicer car or a bigger house or a different thing, but I didn't think, are we rich and poor? And I don't think our youngest, Bella, has that conscience. Yeah. Because we don't know the value of money for purchasing assets and elements to give it. They're just, this is how life is. Like we just went RVing, me and Bella, every child when they turn 14, I go on an 8-day trip, just me and them, to get to bond with them, to understand the child. It's incredible because suddenly after day 3, the layers disappear, and then you realize, the kid's actually a night owl. Like Beatrice, I just thought she was sulky in the morning. She's not. She just came alive later in the day. Yep. And Bella and I said, where do you want to go? She goes, New Zealand. I'm like, oh, awesome. I've always wanted to go to New Zealand. I said, where are we going to stay? And she said, I want to go in an RV. And I'm like, what? I've never been in an RV.
Beautiful.
A couple of mates back home have them. And I'm like, don't know if I want to feel like I retired and I drive around in an RV. It was spectacular. Wow. It was like like being a turtle where you've got your house on your back. Yeah. And we saw the most spectacular vistas. We traveled through, Guildford Sound, all these incredible places. And the one thing she liked best was sitting on a horse as we rode through a valley and watching a rugby game, which she complained about the whole time we watched it.
And then she says,
and she said that was the best bit. Yeah. And so I think we put filters onto what our kids value, like money, that we often don't see. It's like everybody has their own filter system. And I think we get lost with, are we good enough parent or not? I think at the end of the day, I felt loved as a child and really happy and adventurous. I remember crying at every birthday because it was, I was always left out supposedly or whatever. I was always the victim with that stuff, but the typical number 4 child wanting to get the attention. But I don't look back and go, that was sad. Yeah. Yeah. Even though, it was benchmarked by a lot of problems at boarding school. I was bullied heavily because I was ADD and dyslexic. I was just told I was thick. And then my mum died at 18 and she was ill for 7 years at home. So I was away while she was suffering. But I don't look back at it as sad.
Yeah. I feel like that developed the grit, the framework.
For sure.
You know, where you have like a resiliency.
For sure.
You maybe didn't want it or the
Yeah.
suffering, but if
Yeah.
you, again, I don't know what the best term, but like you don't ruminate on it. You don't do anything.
Yeah.
But you see it as like, where's the silver lining? Where's
Yeah.
the next phase of how can I build it into my psyche to be
Yeah.
better? And that sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, I have a deep skill and passion to get back up.
Right.
And I think, I don't know if I purposely picked it, but I went into the rejection industry as a career, which is advertising and branding.
Yeah.
I would hear, no, not good enough, you're not in.
Oh, yeah.
90 times.
But I feel like that's made the connection there. That's like, that stuff is what made you successful.
I think so.
You know,
and success
In a
came
way.
for me with steps ahead. I never thought I want to be this in the distance.
Yeah.
Because I was always told you're not good enough, you're thick, whatever. But I made landmark changes in my path to ensure I was in the right ponds to increase my chances of success at every moment.
Yes. And that's what I found as I've done these talks and with everybody, we chat about all these things, and I always see, you know, the framework of success is a lot of failure. A lot. You know, like it's just something to, and that's why I do this.
Yeah.
So continuing on, since we got a little off there, so
and just on that there.
Yeah.
I don't see it as failure.
Okay. Well,
I actually, I've had to, because failure has been probably 80% of my time. Yeah. I just see it as obstacles that as an explorer, as a father, as an entrepreneur, I see them as sometimes exciting hurdles to climb over.
I agree. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah. My stepfather actually, when I failed my exams, my A levels. You know, I managed to get into A level. I redid math 5 times. I redid English 4 times just to get the O level. And in my A levels, I realized there was something wrong. Like even in my biology exam, geography exam, general studies, I made shit up in the exam. I'm like, well, this is the continent thing that does this, and this is the biological part, because my brain was just creative and loved it. I was actually enjoying putting stuff down that was all wrong, but failed. But anyway, and I got my exam slip at the end. We drove up to Lancaster where I got my when I went to school, and I stood there in a line to get your exam slip to then go back to the car with your parent and explain what you got. And I remember. Friend Nick was in front and he got 4 A's and went to Oxford. And I remember getting mine and going, not sure. And then Phil was like, yeah, I'm going to Cambridge behind. Yeah. And these were friends that were far more academically achieved than me. But I was classed as a peer, which was great through different techniques I'd come up with at school to be that. And I got UO, unqualified O level, which is 3 years below, unqualified O level. So I got on my paper. And I sat back in the car with my stepdad, who was a little bloke. And I didn't respect him as much as I should because I'd come under this gaze of my real father being an inventor and the love of my mother's life and the father of my sisters. And so he was never good enough until I wrote his eulogy and realized, even though he was knighted by the Queen, but I still felt he wasn't good enough, because when you follow a romantic role model, nobody else can stand up to it. Yeah. So I got this paper and he said, how'd you do? And he was a headmaster. And I couldn't think of what to say. I just sat there. I'm like twice his size. I'm playing rugby, big guy. I said, I'll let you down. That's all I could think about. And he says, why? I says, I failed everything. I thought I'd even get the woodwork through, but I failed everything. And he just sat there quietly. And he said, Will, you face a wall right now, an obstacle. And to be honest, you're going to face these walls for the rest of your life. But we all do. No, you're in good company. All we need to do is work a way back from the wall so we can see a way over it, around it, or under it. And that philosophy has seen me through everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Challenges with the kids, with marriage, with health, with all these things. There's always a way around, over, under the wall. But to do it, you have to have the right people alongside you. And sometimes if you're with the wrong people, it's like you and the Marines, you even go to an oath of being with the right people to be there for each other. In life, we don't do that. We often keep relationships very thin versus deep. And so that was a huge tipping point for me. And and the guy had just lost his wife 3 months before. He was broken. And I'd let him down as the final, I could have been the cherry of something happening good, last kid.
Yeah, right.
So it was a big pivot point, but it's also a point. I was even talking to Bella last night, she's dyslexic as well, about her math. And I'm like, we've got to work out how to get over or around or under the wall, not through hammering and being at math, but celebrating the creativity of solving and see where we can go.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So carrying on there, you're 18.
Yeah. So
at that pivot point then.
That pivot point was actually helped because just a little bit before, when I was 13, I actually got caught copying. And I'd copied all my life. Why? Because this guy's got the answers. Why do I have to work it out? So just take his. You're awesome, Travis.
Yeah.
You're doing really well. So I used to copy all the time until I got busted in an exam. The kid called me out. Travis is cheating. He built a cardboard wall. Going back to the wall again.
Yeah.
He built a cardboard wall around his exams. And then I was like 12%, 16%. Like, the dog would do better in an exam. And I got heavily bullied there. That haircut.
Yeah.
I became like Travis with the stupid haircut, the thick kid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. At 13, I was still skinny. I was playing rugby, but not very good. I was just like a weed, and then filled out, obviously, with time. But at that point, became very introverted and went back to that quiet shell of the little boy. And then an American kid. This is actually why I moved to America in my mid-20s. An American kid, Gawain Mainwaring, in the typical fashion of becoming a friend with another boy. It started with a fight. And I didn't know you didn't put your thumb in here. I broke my thumb hitting him back and became best mates.
Yeah. And
he took me under his wing. Why? Because he was always up and positive. He's like, come on, let's do it. You can da-da-da-da. Come on, Travis. And he just lifted me. And what I learned at that tipping point was how to put on the cloak of a persona that can allow you to be somebody like an actor or a musician, can allow you to be somebody else, to build out to your shell like a turtle.
Right.
And when I was 18, I realized then that I just needed to embrace my shell and my cloaks to be able to propel where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I had two choices. Dad said, you can come home. I hadn't been living at home for 7 years. You can come home and live with me and I'll buy you a car. So there was a plus. Or you can go get your own little apartment and you're going to go to college in Preston. We need to get you on the ladder. And I went to do communication studies there at this Zen College. And I stayed at home. And he bought me the car from a lady next door, which was a little Renault 5. It was £500, Renault 5 Gordini, had a big engine on a little car. The thing bits used to fly off the car when I'd drive it. The bucket seats would rock.
Yeah.
It was shit. The windscreen wipers had come off, but it was fast.
Nice.
And I used to power this thing around the place. Me and my friend Nick would live, in cars, traveling around, enjoying, climbing the mountains and all this sort of stuff. And I got into college and I did a business studies course because it was often the easiest one to get into. And it triggered me into branding and creativity. And that led me to get to Manchester to do an HND and then a 1-year degree completion in Huddersfield. And I went from a big city with 7 universities to a small town with 1. And from knowing, and I was very popular because I create this cloak all the time. Hey, I walk into every party, every event like fucking rock stars just arrived. Hey, and I went to America to be a lifeguard.
Okay.
And they're like, I love your accent. You sound so intelligent. I'm like, what? Nobody has used that word with me.
Yeah.
And then Speedos, what are you wearing? But the girls are like, what are you wearing? And so I'm like, wow, I can go to a place where they think I'm somebody. And if I live that act, I can become that somebody. And so I went back to America. I went to America and did that at 20 and then went back to England and had the confidence to go and say to a small design company, I'll come and work for free I'm a graduate, I'm doing good, I'm top of the class in business studies, and I love advertising and branding. Will you let me work for free for you?
Yeah.
I mean, no brainer.
Right.
And I went in there in a suit and tie, and they're like, what are you wearing? Again, like the Speedos. I'm like, t-shirt, pair of jeans. And I got into the branding world and the graphic design world. And it worked because the two people that own the company, Simon and James, believed they could do anything. And so when you slipstream somebody or some people that think they can do anything, then it allows you to feel like you can do anything. Versus, you're not good enough, you're thick, you're stupid, you know.
Interesting. That's what, like, I see these like stepping stones of little things that happen in that cloak. I always, you know, like in a psychological terms of like, you know, if you were to, like a couple, they talk about where like one day the man just decided to, you know, smile, which the wife smiled, and then it was like, that's all you have to do. It's like, that's like a cloak.
Yeah.
That's a layer where...
The cloak is so powerful.
Yeah.
And actors, artists, you know, perfect it. We're not taught that. We're taught, oh, you're not being real, or who are you, or why's your mood swing, or whatever. Yeah. But if you can take a cloak, the key is, and which what we talked about earlier about having our own time and silence and quiet, is you've got to know the technique of taking the cloak off. Because if you fuel and build the cloak like an influencer or Instagrammer or whatever it is, you end up feeling very empty and shallow on the inside because you're not doing the work to build who's inside the cloak. Yeah. So you have to build both, like it is a profession. Right. You know, you as a fighter pilot, right? That cloak, I'm going in there, I'm saving lives, I'm changing the world, and and I'm, you know, I'm a different guy than the dad at home looking after the kids and holding the wife.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't perfect that, you know it better than anybody. If you don't perfect it so well, you die.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when it's like, fuck, I don't die if I don't, you know, may die of embarrassment.
Yeah.
But people like yourself that are an elite performer in certain areas, you learn that you've got a lot of lessons that the world needs. And people don't know how to do it, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, and I think I could turn that back onto you in the sense that, you know, those lessons, those obstacles, the resistance, you know, you learned from a long time, and then I think we'll get to it in a little bit of like to what you do now, because that framework, I feel like in that process of, you know, process philosophy is like that's how you get it. You have to have the lessons, I think, in this human experience.
Yeah.
And then, but going back to you, so you had this experience of being in this slipstream with brilliant men who thought they could do anything.
Yeah.
In advertising and branding. And so I want you to pick up there to kind of, what was a culminating experience or something interesting that you could say from that time working for free? And then obviously then getting paid and moving from there.
Yeah, well, I'd gone to America for that 6 months. I'd started working for free at the end of my university year. And then gone to America. My friend Jason said, do you want to come and be a lifeguard? And I did that. I got my ego built, which many people think is bad, but it built me back to have the confidence.
Right.
In the persona, it wasn't as much confidence on the inside, but I felt that it really lifted me, and we all need those places. And they said, come back, because the guy that you were shadowing was spending all day sitting in the movie theater and not working and not helping the business. He was naturally lazy. He was probably very talented, but didn't want to do the work. And so suddenly I was handed this job, and I'm like, whoa, you know, I've only done it for 6 months. But I remember being with this guy, going to the movies when I was shadowing him, going, I don't have time for this shit. How do you get paid for this? This is this is boring because we're not doing anything, and I feel life is slipping by. And I went back. They offered me £5,000 for a year as my salary. Yeah. And I was living with a mate, so I could afford it coming from a student. I did an insurance scam going to America with a lost bag to pay off my student loan for a couple of grand. And so I was level. Everything was great. And I went back there, and my first objective was I'd love a cell phone. The phone had just come out, you know, these
what year
clip
is this?
things.
About?
This is 92.
Okay.
Yeah, 1992. So I was 23. So maybe 22, maybe 91. Born in 69. And I remember aiming, I'd like to have that. And I worked really hard. I worked really hard during the day. Simon, my boss and then partner as I grew up in my career, I learned so much listening to him. You're like, yeah, come on, you can do this. And He could sell snow to an Eskimo for sure. And if the snow wasn't relevant, he would take something else out of his bag, a book about rugs.
Wow.
And try and sell a rug. He wanted to leave with a deal. He needed money. He'd come from a tough upbringing and survival was critical, and that's how he lived. He was resourceful. James the same. Tough backgrounds, north of England. But in the north of England, I remember them both getting their first cars, nice cars. They got 2 Mercedes. They were actually BMWs. They were started by Prince Charles, giving them £1,000 to start the company. And James just got knighted by King Charles for the contribution to the Prince's Trust, now the King's Trust, for his, pushing the resilience and starting this business. We became a flagship for the trust. And they were just so resilient in everything they did. They would always go forwards. But when they got these cars, some local lads poured acid all over them. Fuck you cocky git, showing off. And that's the background.
Oh, wow. The
tall flower gets chopped out. And I remember going, that's just off. How mean's that?
Yeah.
But I worked really hard for a few years. My elder sister, beautiful lady Debbie, she really inspired me. She used to come back like a beacon of light into the home when I was growing up and come back with purple hair or crazy things or crazy stories or blah, blah, blah. And she said, why don't you come and try and get into America? And I'd got that taste of America. And she goes, she's going to Cannes, and her awesome husband, Hans, and her were working at this television thing. They'd had a broken business and they'd started again from scratch. And she said, come and sleep on my floor in the room, but walk the halls of this event that we're at, walking the halls, and we'll try and get you some business. And they helped me over the walls of getting introductions to NBC, ABC. It was all in the television industry. And when I was in England, we were just doing design projects with the coolest design projects. But here we were trying a new market. And I went back to James and Simon and said, look, I kind of feel like I'm boxed in a bit now. 3 years, it seemed, I said to my daughters, you've got to stick it out for the long haul. But I was already ready to leave 2.5 years in to my first job. But they said, well, why don't you try a different job with us? Why don't you open, I said, why don't I open my first office? And they said, why don't you do that? I said, oh. He said, but you pay for it. So I went back to America, slept in a dorm of 12 people in Chelsea district in New York. Little money, economy flight. Yeah. And I stole the Yellow Pages from America, the big book in the old days. Yeah, remember that? And I went back to Huddersfield, and every evening I would go through it. Hello, I'm Will Travis from, no idea probably what I was saying.
Yeah.
I represent a really cool design company from Huddersfield. I'd love to come and see you when I'm coming to New York in a month, and we're the best company in Britain. And people go, yeah, I'll do a meeting. And I teed up enough meetings to see 8 companies every day for 4 days.
Wow. Yeah.
And on the last day, I got a deal with Simon & Schuster just to redo the front of like bad movie cover posters. And it was a big job. It was like $100,000, but we had like 100 posters to do. And I went back and I did that again. And then we were asked to, there's a brand called Monday Night Football. You know that one?
Yeah.
So we were asked to, would you like to come and pitch against 8 other companies to do the branding for Monday Night Football? I'm like, what is football? I knew football, but it was round.
Yeah.
And I went to New York and I presented to ABC, Disney, did a presentation about the packaging and what we were going to have on the front and this American footballer, kind of red stripe because that's what Americans drink. That's what I thought. It's from Jamaica, but anyway. And I did a presentation. And I acted, went through it, and I was so passionate. And I got in the car, and the phone rang, and I opened my clip phone, and they said, "Hi, this is Judy from Disney." Just want to say that was the best presentation we had out of all 8. And we'd like to award you the business. I was like, yes, couldn't believe it. So happy. He said, but we do have to admit one thing. I said, what was it? We didn't understand a word you said. The whole presentation. All they heard was probably what you hear when American footballers are on there, you know, and they were like, we want whatever he's eating and the energy on the box, on the packaging. And I thought, fuck, now in America, not only do they think I'm intelligent and they like Speedos, they'll even buy what I'm selling with not knowing what I'm on about. That is the land of destiny, where I need to go. And so I made enough money. Everything is about the power of team. And I had a brilliant creative partner, Simon Dixon, spectacular, brilliant genius man, who was a great designer, and Rachel, who became his wife, but a beautiful, brilliant producer. And Sean, who I later married, who was my operations person. And I convinced all 4 of us to go to move to New York. And I got enough business to pay for 6 months, and I got an apartment and an office in Soho. And I just walked the streets every day, portfolio, suitcase, and knocked on every door, which at the same time, the team back in England had brilliantly created a series of books called Noise. And Noise was a compilation of design. And what made this different from every other book in the marketplace, and I still have it as a philosophy for life now, we'd said to all the designers, design a page, whatever theme, whatever topic, whatever print finish, whatever sealant, whatever it is. But it has to be the most progressive thinking application of design that you can think about for the future. And suddenly we became an agency that wasn't judged for what we'd done, but for what we could do. And I walked around New York, MTV picked us up, Columbia TriStar picked us up, Ford Motor Company picked us up, PepsiCo picked us up, AT&T picked us up, because they were like, we want the future, not what you've done in the past. And suddenly we had 20 odd people. We got enough. I started working with Nike and Sony in LA. So then, and Sean was expecting, and I'm like, let's go to California. Simon's like, I've got it here. And quickly the agency became the hottest thing. I was shit scared before I went to New York. In fact, I had beautiful blonde curly hair. I still do. It's just not there. And I shaved my head before I went to New York. I'm like, I want people feeling I look hard so they don't threaten or discover that I'm not. Like a lot of people here, you see them tatted up and with images. That's just saying on the inside, I'm a little bit broken or hurt or scared. And I'm creating a persona because I want you to feel through the cloak that I'm not. And so I created this physical persona. I wore all black, still do a little bit, and a shaved head. And then suddenly all the designers in my studio wore black and shaved head, even some of the women. They were like, fuck, this is awesome. We have a theme, we have a brand.
Wow.
So we moved from being just a design company to a brand that did brands. And we used to go to trade shows and I'd take everybody. So 20 people in black with shaved heads would walk through and like, who are those guys? And we'd have the books showing the future. And suddenly I'm working with Philip Stark and, you know, Jay Mays at Ford and Neville Brody and all these incredible people. And I felt invincible. I felt invincible.
Interesting. So to my next question, so you're at the top of the game, I believe. And you tell me if I'm right, and maybe it's the Saatchi and Saatchi deal.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
so
yet.
That's coming yet. Okay. So
but there's a bigger fall next.
So yeah, then you have the floor.
So to that point of I'm at the top of my game. I'm on stage. I'm motivating my partners because I love lifting people. That's my passion. And so I got James on stage. I got Simon to move out from America. And my ego had now surpassed control. The cloak had got a lot bigger. And we've seen it with people like Will Smith, Jim Carrey, people where the cloak gets bigger than the little boy on the inside or the little girl. And I fucked up my marriage. I strayed. We had 2 little girls who are the apple of my eye and the most beautiful girls. And luckily now I've been I tried to be the best dad, and they're still with me on the journey, and we have a great time all the time. But I got lost. I didn't have the role model. My stepfather, was back in England, and I felt, to be honest, he was every time I went back with a story, it wasn't good enough, or there was another thing. He was probably just trying to keep me in control a little bit. I felt like I need to prove it. I didn't have older role models and the right people alongside me. And I was also, when you're flying at that pace, your engine is just fueled with delusional gas.
Like in your echo chamber, I guess.
Yeah, big style. And I was in San Francisco, and it was the .com boom and the IT boom.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing a logo, I was charging $1 million for a branding piece for a company that didn't exist. I remember doing a company called Snowball, and they're like, we got $2 million for our branding. I'm like, I'll take it. I had stretch limos every Friday and Saturday for the whole team. We'd go out partying, crazying. I used to take over the Diesel fashion store in San Francisco, and we'd do film nights, and we'd do fashion shows, and I'd take over warehouses and do content that would then go in the new noise books, and we did 6 of those. My ego was through the roof, but I fucked up my marriage. And that was a first domino. Suddenly there was an IT crash in San Francisco, then the .com crash. So from going that we're invincible and we'll pay you $5,000 if you can recommend somebody, the world collapsed, and 2/3 of my competition went bankrupt over 6 months.
Wow.
And I managed to pivot. Lisa Cleff, who's a beautiful new business lady we had, got us into Medtronic. People in 2008 were having heart attacks. And the stents that Medtronic were doing, we did campaigns. We got into the area. We were doing videos for lawsuits because everyone was suing each other. So I pivoted into an area of survival. I had 5 studios at that part, 280 creatives around the world.
Wow.
And I had to personally go and shut 3 of them down. I had to go to Australia, and with Dave Taylor, who's like a brother, sit there and go, mate, all got to go home, and close that down. And then we did it in London, and then there was just Huddersfield and San Francisco. We shut New York down. And I was at this point, I'm like, fuck, this is really bad. And there was a boat called the Marketing Forum that got people together, business leaders together, to help propel and solve things and get clients. And I flew to New York to get on that boat. I needed to convert a client from that boat. And my apartment on Broadway and Wall Street in Lower Manhattan, I had a studio there, and I came out that morning, and the night before I discovered that our books had been cooked.
Oh, wow.
So I thought we were okay in New York, but the books had been cooked. And I said to the guy leading there, who I'm still very close with, but I'm like, Jim, you can't do that. We've got a board meeting today. Let's meet half an hour earlier, and we've got to sort this shit out. And I put my laundry under Tower 1 at Ground Zero. And as I walked away, a plane hit it behind me as I got to the apartment in Soho, the office in Soho. And I said, something's wrong. That just it doesn't feel like a small plane. Then we're watching another plane hit the tower. Then we stood on the roof and saw people falling. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And as I'm standing on the roof, I'm looking at the Empire State Building. Is somebody going to hit that? We're under attack. And the only person I could think about at that time of who I needed help, who should I speak to, was the wife I'd just fucked up the marriage with. So I called her. She's like, it's okay. Don't worry. The girls are fine. Blah, blah, blah. Then the phone stopped because Tower 1 went down and the cell systems went. So now we're not in touch with anybody. And, we had people that were on the 86th floor in our office. We were housing them, trying to help them. And then 2 days later was when the boat was supposed to go to save my business. But the boat couldn't get into New York. I said to Alwyn, who was the CEO, I'm like, you got to get the boat in, mate. I need the business. We're going to die. He's like, are you kidding? We're stuck in Boston. And then I'm like, this could not get worse. I slept on a floor in New York for 4 days, and finally got out to go straight and see the girls. I got the first flight out of Lower Manhattan. And then my back went. I pushed the disc out of my back. So now my mental health, my physical health, my relationships, my career, everything was smashed. And luckily, you know, my family helped and supported, my friends supported me. Luckily, I'd kept relationships at that level. But it got to a point where I'm a bedrock. And I went back to San Francisco. I got rid of the Porsche. I got rid of the fast car. I got rid of the Rolex. Moved to a wooden house at Muir Beach overlooking the ocean and started again. Fresh chance. But they say it always happens in threes. I'm like, all right, we're at number 5 now. Put me down.
Yeah.
This isn't funny.
Yeah. Wow. What did you get out of that? I mean, it sounds like that's where you sat to be the hermit for a little while. I think every man has to maybe in their of growing has to find that balance, that equanimity, the center. So.
Yeah, the boy woke up. I still didn't have the right guidance. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I started again there. I'd worked really hard and people knew I was a good guy. And that helped get the support and the belief in what we could do. And then my friend Chris Brand, he was bouncing between homes. He said, I'll come live with you. And then another friend, Dennis Pettigrew, he came and one after the other, they lived with me out in Muir Beach, kind of helped me through it. And Chris said, you know, we need to keep the body and the mind going. So we started climbing the mountains around San Francisco, go up to Tahoe and climb some of the places to go snowboarding and stuff like that. And it got me into a physical. And then I had a game of darts with a friend in a pub and I lost. And he said, right, if you win the next game, you'll come and climb the highest mountain in Russia. I'm doing the 7 summits. This friend, Jamie Clark. And so I started climbing mountains physically as well. So I started climbing the 7 summits. I started climbing out in different parts of the world at the same time as I climbed back psychologically at home and started to bring it back. And every 2 weeks, wherever the girls were, I would fly. So it would take me 18 hours just to get to see them for 2 days. And then I'd come all the way back. And then Sean luckily moved back to Montreal. We became business partners and have been since. Wow. And then, but I met Jana, who you know, my partner, my wife, and she was totally there with me. And we would drive 7 hours each way, Friday, and then back Sunday to go and see the girls every other weekend in Montreal, make sure we're always there for them. And we managed to get a bit more balance and equilibrium. And the business kept growing, and then we sold it. It got to the point we got over the hump. We did a brand called Scion, which became pretty famous in America. And Dentsu decided to buy us. I thought I could hide at Dentsu. And they promoted me to CEO. Yeah. Typical, right? And I basically worked through my buyout for 4 years. And after the end of the buyout, where I found it very oppressive, it was very restrictive. My creativity, my commando style of getting over the wall and doing things was held back. And I had to change life again. I had to repivot and work it out, try something different. And so the first thing I did was I went to Africa to walk with Lion on foot because I'd lost my confidence.
When was this?
This was 8 years ago.
Okay. So I was trying to get that timeline.
No,
down.
sorry. This is 14 years ago.
Okay.
14 years ago.
All right.
Yeah. So I went trucking Lion on foot to recalibrate what fear was. And then I came to Bali to look at what...
How long? Same time?
Same time.
Okay.
All over a 6-month period.
Wow.
Came to Bali to reassess what community and culture
was. That your first time here?
First time here. My friend Joel had invited us. He was a guy I'd met in Montreal.
I think I stayed at his house.
Yeah, there you go. So Joel, great creative thinker, very maverick entrepreneur and great builder. And he just come over here and I'll look after you, and gave us everything and encouraged us. I didn't like Bali. but my wife fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I'd had these incredible career opportunities. Jay Mays courted me to be the head of design at Ford. I was invited to be the head of marketing at Nike. And I didn't really know that those opportunities were there, and I didn't know how to handle them. But then I got the invitation to be the CEO, vice chair actually, above that, of Saatchi and Saatchi.
Yeah.
Kevin Roberts, the great, legend who did Love Marks.
Yeah.
Said, I want you to come and lead Saatchi globally, 148 offices. And we just had Bella, and I'd just come to Bali for a year. Daft Punk had rented our house in New York, in our apartment, and Guy was writing his album, and the money from them renting our apartment in New York was more than enough to rent 3 houses in Bali. And so we had this time availability, and I courted to take the job at Saatchi for 4 months, which was going to be my stake in the ground. British ad agency, global role, big power, and life-changing.
Yeah. Tell me about that decision. That's interesting.
It was an exciting one, and I was so flattered. My office on Hudson Street was, 1,000 square foot. Could play golf in the place. The team were exceptional, but Saatchi were really going through some tough times.
Yeah.
And it was when I was in the villa up in Ubud, and I looked at Bella, and Bella was in one of those little, like death trap wheel things that a little baby will run around in, and they've got the wheels, move them around the place, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Till they fall off a thing. Yeah. She had one of those. And I remember looking at her, and I'm like, I'm about to leave. This is my second chance at being a father. Third chance child-wise, but second era. Do I want to follow the ego, or do I need to follow my heart? And there was something niggling me, and I'd started to learn to listen to my inner voice. And I do an exercise, and you can do it. You stand up, and you ask yourself the question of the action you're going to take. Should I do this, or should I not? And if you should, you usually move forwards. But if you move backwards, wake up. And I moved backwards. And I remember thinking, oh my God.
What is that?
And then once that starts happening, the dominoes again start falling, other things step in place. I remember one of the guys saying, yeah, it'd be great. You have 3 houses around the world, probably another wife somewhere else. And I'm like, I've already fucked up one thing with my best friend.
Yeah.
I've got a new best friend, and I'm trying to get this to work, and I'm going to leave. And Jana was, whatever you need to do, we'll follow you, we'll support you, we'll be there. And I rang Kevin, and I said, Kevin, it breaks my heart, but I'm afraid I'm not going to take the role. And I had no plan B. What do I do with the family? Got a young family split across the world. And he said, I understand. And our paths will cross again. And I respect you for it. And I remember thinking, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I've dragged this guy around for nearly 6 months, and he's just accepted it. And it was like, you have to sometimes, if there's somebody bad in your life that's a bad influence, you have to ask them to get up and leave so that somebody good can sit down. It's like you have to make room for opportunity. And the next day, a guy I'd met in Montreal, Jean-Francois Bouchard, he's probably one of the most brilliant business leaders I've met, called me and he said, Will, what are you up to? And I said, I'm in Bali. He says, stop that. He wants to be in Bali now. He said, stop that. He said, we need a gringo to help Sid Lee expand globally. And I'm launching this new event called C2, which is like TED meets Burning Man. Would you come back and do it? And I lied. And I said, I have a job. Sorry, JF, if you may not know this. But I lied and I said, I have the offer from Saatchi and Saatchi to come back and do this job on my table. And they've given me 48 hours to decide. If you match that offer, I'll come. because he said what was different between Saatchi, I knew that Saatchi was a spectacular brand, but I would be going around the world solving problems versus building creation and opportunity.
Yeah.
And JF had offered me the opportunity of building the future versus solving the past. And I wanted to do that. And C2 was going to be and is one of the world's #1 entrepreneurial creative event. $12 million they spent on the first event, with Cirque du Soleil as a partner and the Quebec government. And Sid Lee had won Adidas, done the All In campaign, were blossoming as a real creative. They had an architectural division, they had a production company, they had a tech division. And I'm like, I've got a toolbox now that's really exciting and very interesting where I can go. I'm gonna go do that. And JF called me back and he's like, you bastard. I said, what? He said, you're in. You're earning more than any of the other guys. I'll give you this much equity. But they had the big equity. And I decided to leave. We moved back to New York. We left Bali after 2 years. I was kind of tired of looking at bamboo and getting massage every day. Now, I wish I did. And went back and started and helped build their studio in New York and then Los Angeles and then expand it internationally. And we grew that really quickly. C2 was spectacular. But the promises and the challenges, I was the minority. I was the only non-Quebec guy really on the board. And there was a lot of pressures. There was a lot of things that weren't right, a lot of things that were great. And when that buyout finished, because they then sold to a great guy, Michael Birkin from Q, Hakuhodo, lead in the West. When that buyout finished, I decided I needed to do something different. And before it happened, I had another pivot moment of change when Elevation Barn was born.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say, because what comes to mind of this idea of like ask God for what you want, but expect something greater. And I feel like in some ways it's like you don't know when. It's not like, oh, that boop boop, but it was more of like that situation where you turn something down and then the next day.
Yeah.
You can't.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, you can't plan to know what God has in store for you.
For sure.
And so something like that, which led into Elevation Barn, I would say. So having the tools and being in a different place and recognizing, because I remember a similar time in the military where, when I'm making this decision to stay or go, and I see, like probably you did, you see the trajectory of like, I'm already super busy and gone a lot. Yeah. And I had at some point had 2 kids, and I'm like, so I'll just see them less than I do now. And I don't think I could live with myself. Yeah. If I'm just gone more. Yeah. Like I can't, I don't think you can be a father. If you're not there, if you're not there, period, you don't have a say. Yeah. And so I think that. Yeah.
Your energy is so critical. Yeah. Even if you're my friend Dave talks about being sometimes the lamp in the room. You don't have to be on and doing stuff. You just need to be present.
Yeah.
And being a mother or a father, just presence is critical.
Exactly. Because I think like that's the dad, like if you're there, because it's not like it's typically with mom, I think when it's then, but then like dad, there he is. Yeah. I can reach for that.
Yeah. Even if he's outside in the garden.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And vice versa, wherever mom is, she's in the garden, but she's there.
So for Elevation Barn, so this kind of eventuality, is this eventuality, you think? It's been a, course, or how do you see it?
Elevation Barn became my first chance I'd crafted the studios and built the agencies and grown it internationally into, multi-million-dollar big corporations, several hundred people in each. But Elevation Barn became all right, you're in the kitchen, what we having? Right. And it wasn't intentional, but it was birthed by something that was deeply there.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'd said when I'd struggled a lot with some of the people I'd worked with, and I'm like, I'm not working with arseholes again, for sure. And I was sitting in a bar venting about my job. And when you're venting about your job, you realize that you're the control of your own destiny. Shut up venting and make a change. Right. But I was sitting in this bar with this dear friend, San Rahi, and I said, we took a pivot and we were talking about other friends, awesome guys from different places. And I said, they all feel like they're hesitating where they're going in life. They're all in a point of transition. And for some reason, they're not putting all four wheels of their vehicle on the road to move forwards. They need to sort their shit out. And it's great talking about it to somebody else. You know, people like branding. Branding is what people say about you, not what you say about yourself. That's marketing.
Yep.
But their brands were what, as a brand, I was identifying how awesome they were. They weren't believing in it and knowing how to get there. And I said, you know what we should do? I should take them through a process that we use in the branding, because branding moves emotion out of the way. If I'm going to rebrand this glass, I want to know its assets. It's half full of pure water. It holds, you know, the metaphor of life. It's refreshing. It's really comfortable in your hand, and it's great, and it's obtainable by everybody. Anyone can use that. And suddenly, how do I manifest that into a brand? I'm like, why don't we do that for the guys? And Sam said, we should do it. And I'm like, nah. He said, do it. And he's a great one of saying, you go first.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. He went to the restroom, and I'm like, I don't know what he was doing in there, but I was like sitting there, and I'm like, you know what, I will.
Yeah.
And I'd had a few drinks, and they gave the Dutch courage, and I started writing a message, and I said, guys, I'm hosting an event called Sort Your Shit Out, upstate New York for 4 days. And come, I'm going to host you. I want you to go through this process. Help me out, but I want to see if this process can work on a person. And I'd been going to TED, I've been going to Hatch, I've been going to all these incredible conferences, events around the world. And I was coming out of them going, God, that person was awesome. And that experience was awesome. But inside, I was going, well, what about me? Who's helping me? And I couldn't find anything. There was people that were life coaches or shrinks or whatever. And I'm like, I just need to be set in the right direction. I don't need all this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm scared and I'm not ready to commit to all that stuff. I just need modern elders to help me guide where to go. And so I sent this message to 4 of the friends. And the next morning I woke up, I'm in. And I'm like, in what? I've been out drinking all night. I couldn't remember I'd sent the message, to be honest. And they'd all said, let's do it. And so we all crafted a 4-day retreat. And I led the process of taking everyone through the different steps that has become Elevation Barn. How do you elevate your perspective of where you want to go through the barn-raising wisdom of peers? And a very powerful process that we all follow. And within the first 30 minutes of the process, I could feel the weight coming off my back, but I could see the weight dropping off theirs. And people going, oh my God, I have a chance to share. I have space to think. I have wisdom to build. I have a process to follow. I'm in an environment that makes me feel like I'm awesome and good enough. So therefore I feel worthy. And I could see this process was just unraveling. And the process has changed and evolved since the beginning. But what happened was this incredible system that really allowed people to take this backpack of expectancy off that we all carry. And many people do more and more courses. They do more things they need to learn. But what it does is it adds more weight in the backpack. And it more expectancy and more maybe imposter syndrome and maybe, you know, and the higher up the career ladder, because the lonelier you've got, because it's more isolated at the top for trust and leadership, this hero's journey that is probably the worst thing you can do, be alone. Suddenly it allows people to drop back down the mountain, to be with peers, to think through things and propel. So as a mountaineer, I found this when I was in Antarctica, when I was climbing the highest mountain there of Vincent Massif. I was like, I'm here. Oh shit, this isn't the top. The top's over there.
The
false summit. But that false summit was great. And I had to go down a bit to then go back up to the next. You have to realize that you have to go to the negative to the positive. The pendulum swings, like it doesn't stay in one place, and you've got to go with the flow. And I decided to come out at the end of it, and they said, we all talked about what we wanted to do for the future. And they said, what do you do? And I said, I want to elevate people. You could be like the new Tony Robbins. You can be the branding guy. And I'm like, yeah, that just sounds like I'm a preacher. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a stage entertainment pushing. I just want to help the individual. But by being part of a peer group, that power of that collective just puts you in really good company. And makes you feel really important and really successful, because what they do is they reflect back at your past from the good things you tell them, which is part of the process. Not all the challenges and the problems, they don't care. Everyone's got their shit. But when you look at all the potential of somebody, guys like to fix and women love to nurture. And both sides, because the retreats are male and female, suddenly you get solutions and nurturing and support and what happens with that backpack on the side, the wings come out and you start flying. And so Elevation Barn happened at the point where I felt like my wings needed to come back out. I needed to sort my shit out again. And so I left the Sid Lee world and Elevation Barn was born.
Is that, what comes to mind as you're sharing that is that the balance maybe of suffering and then vulnerability. Where,
it's good.
Where I see that, you know, if used correctly, vulnerability is a superpower. Yeah,
I was told, you know, opportunity is a bird that never perches. And the number of times I see people go, excuse me, I can't be asked to go to that party, or I don't want to go and meet that person, or I can't be bothered, I'm like, it's an opportunity. And at the moment, you need it. And that vulnerability to actually shut up and listen and to help follow a path. The road may be a dead end, but you've now discovered a dead end road. It's a journey, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think with vulnerability, life is like driving a car. We're all in the road of life. We're going from A to Z. The road is foggy. We don't know if there's a pothole. We don't know if there's an accident. We don't know if it's a straight, beautiful line. That's life. And fate will throw all sorts of shit in you to wake you up or to give you opportunity or to, you know, get you aligned. And having a process allows you to find your North Star, to know which is the right direction to go in. It's like scraping the ice off a windshield.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I need to go in that direction. And that's what branding does. I've worked on thousands of brands. And what my aim is the brand allows the North Star directive of the company to be manifested.
Right.
We, Nike, just do it. We want to enable everybody that has a body to be an athlete. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. That's your North Star. Everything you do must lead towards that.
Yes.
And so through the 4-day retreat, we help craft what is your brand, then what is your North Star, and what is your story then off that, so you can tell your story and believe in it to manifest where you're going. If you don't have that, you will keep meandering, as every company will. If the company doesn't know where it's going, it will explore all the different areas of where it can be. If you truly reflect, that's what EB stands. If you look at EB, when you look in the mirror, EB spells be. How can you be your true self? How can you be that persona, the superpower, the cape when it's needed? But if you be who you are, you can then become what you want to be and you'll belong. And belonging is the most important thing. We're herd animals. We won't change unless something disruptive happens. But how can we feel like we belong, and how can we become where we want to be, which helps create legacy. And then it helps create purpose, which creates calm. And with calm comes lightness.
Yes.
Because the older we get, the heavier we get. Oh my God, and problem. They said that life gets easier as it's old. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
We fall apart. Our minds fall apart. Our kids fall apart. The pressure
indeed,
is non-stop. When you're younger, you don't give a shit because there's no ramification. There's no implication of where it's going to go.
Where do you see, this intersection, and this is a question I ask everybody, of skill and luck? Where do you see that? How have you seen it over your career and life?
I think you create luck.
Yeah.
And the ideal position to be in is that when that lucky opportunity happens, you've got the skill to manage it.
Yeah.
And mine is, the tenacity, is creative thinking, is the power of community and network. And opportunities arise. The key is to apply the skill to be able to live it and believe in it.
Yeah. I would say that belief, like that carries its own metaphysical
Everything.
weight. Like I think it's physical weight. It's maybe not much, but it has something there.
Absolutely believe in it.
Yeah.
It's like if you see a martial artist and they believe they know the moves. They believe they can stop the fight or get into sort the situation. And what they go into is flow.
Yep.
But to be in flow, you have to be connected to the challenge and dance with it. If you control it, you'll get thrown off. If you ignore it, it will hit you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to go in the point of connection where you dance.
Exactly.
And then flow and the ability of having skill with chance. If you're dancing, you have to be prepared to then pivot and move because your partner or the scenario has changed. If you're wooden, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so, it's a great thing to think about.
Next question is that this a buddy of mine, prior Navy SEAL, long time ago, when I was just kind of thinking about doing podcasting back in San Diego, asked me this question. I didn't know he was going to ask it. And it was more of like, Blake, what's your superpower? And initially I'm like, I don't know, I can share that because that goes into that vulnerability thing to say like, I'm awesome, I'm good enough.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one, but I'd love for you to share what's your superpower?
I say that it's motivation.
Yeah.
The ability to motivate people to get up, to get to where they're going, to where they need to go.
Yeah.
But the big thing about superpower is what's your superpower? What do people lean on you for? And the superpower, there's two things that people get wrong. Superpower feels like, what am I really good at?
Yeah. it's kind of like
but the superpower is really what do people lean on you for?
Yeah. And it's twofold. It's one is I'm a scary judge of character. And the other one is that I think I have an indomitable mind to pull my reality to me.
That's awesome.
And create it and live in that present
and
flow, happiness, maybe, and sometimes it's overwhelming. So yeah, something like that.
So that's the watch out with a superpower.
Yeah.
Because the superpower is what you need help with most.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's a dialectic of two, where it's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have time for a quick story?
Of course.
So when I realized that the philosophy of the superpower, I was back in New York and I love making fires.
Yeah.
And at home, even as a little boy, excuse me, even as a little boy, I used to sit and watch the fire before guests come out. We had a best lounge, and I used to sit there just transfixed. And I love making fires, and a friend, Kanui, taught me how to make a proper fire. And at Millbrook, our home upstate, we have a beautiful living room with a kitchen and dining room, all open plan. There's a big marble fireplace in there, but we also have one in the library, which is a bit further down the house. And nothing makes me happier than sitting by the fire, knowing that the fire is going to stay lit and it's a beautiful fire and it looks great and the energy is incredible. So one Christmas, we had all the family over and I was going backwards and forwards doing the fire. And Jana's from Uzbekistan. Her father is an absolutely beautiful man and he's but quite direct. He's an agitator. It's his superpower, agitate solutions, but it can irritate you, but then you act because of the irritation. Will, make a fire. And Will, fire's gone out. Can you get fire? And by day 5, I'm like, the fuck, this is really annoying me. I'm log boy now, backwards and forwards. The house is quite long, so I go all the way out with the log basket, bring it in, and I'm doing it all the time. Anyway, one day I did the typical man in his, getting on in life, and I sulked, and I left the house for the day to see what they would all do, who'd make the fire. It was that important to me. And I left and I came back after lunch, and I came back into the living room, and everybody was sitting around the fire with jackets on. No fire.
That's funny.
So, being mature as I wasn't at that point, I went in the library and made myself a fire. And Jana came in, she goes, "Hey, babe." And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" She goes, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm just making a fire." She goes, "Yeah, I can see that. Why are you making a fire in here?" I said, "Oh, you all look really comfortable in there. I don't want to disturb you."
Yeah.
She's like, you're such a dick. You know they would like a fire. I said, "You know what? I'm fed up of making a fucking fire for everybody. Why didn't they make their own fire?" She said, "Because you make the fires." The trigger was I realized that my superpower was my nemesis, that because I loved making fires, they didn't want to tell me how to make a fire. They didn't want to make the fire because they knew I loved making the fire. And also, if they did make the fire wrong, I'd be pissed or redo it.
Yeah.
"Oh, that's a great fire. Good. Move out the way. Let me do it again." And that's the same with our superpower.
Yeah.
Me as a motivator, it's very hard for somebody else to motivate me. Why? Because it's my superpower. Don't tell me what to do. I'm the best at it. It's like people that you have empathy as a superpower.
Right.
Who gives them love and support? Nobody. Why? Because they think they've got it sorted out. And if somebody tries to offer them help, they block them or ignore them. Once you realize how to get help with your superpower, now you'll get help with all the superpowers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, but it's very hard to do it.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do it, I can't say, "Okay, you guys now go do the fire. I'm not going to do it," because they're waiting for me to come down on them to criticize or to do it again and make them feel small. So they prefer not to approach the topic.
I'm thinking now, I remember camping with my son, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure when he did it, I criticized him.
Big style.
And I'm like, shit. But that's
what we do.
so.
That's what we do. And with our superpower, we actually, what happens is you end up looking through one lens.
Yeah.
Which is the superpower and how it is. So when I'm motivating, I see my way of motivation. And when there's a trigger, when you go and do, like if I go and, like I like Tai Chi and yoga and sauna and meditation, calm in the morning. I can't go to one of these classes where it's like, "Yeah, come on, let's go. Woo, woo, yeah, yeah, yeah." Why? Because it's like looking in the mirror. So annoying.
Yeah.
Irritating. Shut up trying to motivate me.
Yeah.
Because it's competitive and it pushes. And so the key is to teach. So with the log fire, the first people I taught how to do the log fire was the kids. Who wants to learn how to do the log fire? Me, me, me. Wow. He's going to share his secret sauce, his superpower with us.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it's not a threat because it's a kid. Vitalik, no, you're waiting last. You're not going to get to learn how to do the fire because you'll be rubbing it in my face that fire's better than your fire, isn't it? Father-in-law. So the key is to help them. And how do I feel when I come down in the morning or when I come back in and there's a beautiful fire roaring? Absolute relief. The weight lifts off my shoulder because somebody has carried my superpower forwards. And that's legacy. That's when you know you're moving to a point of all about me, all about we, all about legacy. When you start helping empower people with your superpower, you're then passing on the tools of legacy.
Yeah.
When I started the Elevation Band, a guy, Chip Connolly, started the Modern Elders Academy in Mexico, in Baja. And he did a presentation to the World Tourism Summit. And he put up a picture of Elevation Barn. And he said, you know when you're doing something right when somebody on the other side of the world is doing the same thing. And he was doing the Modern Elders Academy to bring elders together to help work out next chapters, help people in transition. And I was doing the same. How do I help people in transition elevate their next chapter? with clarity of purpose. And suddenly you realize that you're now giving legacy forwards. You're creating the noise book, which is about the future, not about the past.
Yeah.
And that brings lightness to people. It's actually not, people go, oh, it can be expensive doing the elevation barn. It's not expensive at all. It's an asset. Because somebody gives you the secret sauce to get from A to Z straight versus meander and fall back and lose health, marriages, career, waste of time, It's not even questionable. And so the aim of what we're doing is how do we empower people with clarity of purpose so that they can then become a modern elder to help each other elevate their next chapter.
So kind of the next question I think of, and I think you could elaborate and have a good story, but I want to like pare it down, and it's, what's your philosophical operating system? And I think you could probably go broad, but if you could be succinct about it and kind of in a few sentences to kind of, maybe it's what you do. Maybe it's a litany you recite. Maybe it's something you think about. I don't know. Whatever that is, I would like you to share that.
My philosophy on life?
Or maybe your system. Maybe that system within your mind, how you don't lose your temper, how you find that calm, to be present for your girls, to hold the space better for people, and that's kind of what you do in a way.
Yeah. Presence.
Yeah.
And presence with yourself. I'm fueled with a temper. I have a inner child temper that comes from extreme fear from the trauma of childhood of my father. You know, I started crying when he died, and I'd never cried before that. So I have that, and I know it. The critical thing is to know that we're designed like a pendulum. We should go hot and cold in our emotions all the day. Like a motorbike engine goes side to side and keeps the motorbike upright. The challenge is, the higher up the pendulum goes to a positive experience, the higher the pendulum goes the other side to a negative experience. And men usually have that every day. Women have it on a moon cycle. And men don't often appreciate it. And women, you know, are just irritated by men waking up every morning going, it's an awesome day. And they're like, what the fuck about yesterday? Well, we're about today.
Yeah.
With a dog in the morning. Yeah, they can't. The key is to know that the pendulum always moves, and the higher it goes one side, the higher it goes the other. And so for me, the philosophy is wariness of making decisions when the pendulum is in the calm and the presence, and just taking space, and know that the pendulum will move. So if you feel too far this way or too far that way, know the triggers to relax that. Like I go up to our Jungle House estate a lot and spend time there because it calms my passion down. And I'll go diving to calm my passion down because I'm observing something else, and I'll photograph it and I'll capture stories in a different way. For me, it's just been that presence.
Is there any, like you kind of maybe mentioned some atomic habits that you do? And I feel like maybe you mentioned them, like kind of, but maybe something smaller. It could be, I don't know.
My simple habit starting the day is I go in the sauna and a bit of ice after, but the sauna puts me in a place of sitting.
Yeah.
And that really helps me.
So that's your kind of a daily routine.
My daily routine. Okay, even at Jungle House, I get maybe a cup of coffee, or I try and do something like a coconut water. I'll go and sit on the ridge and I'll look at nature. And when I'm getting itchy to move, I stay.
I see, yeah.
And what happens is...
Well, you talk about presence then.
The presence, yeah. It's like the layers of the ice start coming off the windshield and the brain starts to populate. What I don't do is I don't listen to podcasts when I motorbike or when I've got space, because change happens in the calm, not in the action.
Yeah.
And if you fill yourself with action all the time, you miss the lessons and the knowledge. The critical bit for me, as to how I'm built, is I need space and calm and quiet. And when you do that, it's not your brain that solves, and it's not your emotion in your heart that solves. It's your physical being and your legacy that, as a physical, holistic being, solves.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's when you start listening and hearing and connecting and seeing.
Yes.
So I spend a lot of time in nature. We have a retreat coming up in Botswana in the Okavango Delta next month. I'm going to be there watching the elephant. Just how are they moving? How are they connecting? What do you feel through the floor?
Yeah.
And when you start opening yourself up to other species, upper beautiful nature elements, upper energy, like I believe in Raja Yoga, like if you have a technology device on you, that energy level connected to your energy level reduces your connection to any other energy level around you by just to a meter.
I mean, there's study done that it makes you dumber when the cell phone's out.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And that's just that's like, empirical study. But I was like, before that, I'm like, I already got it.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. But they say that if you don't have a technology device, we're connected within 5 meters.
Agreed. I mean, I think that's something they talk about, the bodies has a, the heart.
Yeah.
And you have this torus field around us. And that it's just, we can't measure it just yet. But, and also it's, it's like woo woo and out there. And I'm like, and I think, and from what my wife does and maybe your wife does, it's like, you don't need an umbilical to have a connection. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's it, period.
Yeah.
So,
but you do have to have good company, I think, as well.
Yes.
To be able to explore those journeys. Like this, the purpose of this is just to unravel a bit. How can what we've talked about today maybe give a different perspective, a different thought, a different, point of view? And it may come across on a device, but I find when I walk on the beach at the end of the day, I always leave my phone. And at first you feel anxiety. Oh, what happens if I miss the sunset picture? Or what happens if a blue whale jumps? Or what? It's like, what happens if I don't be present with myself and actually see and feel what's here?
Yep.
And when I walk, just the energy of the environment that I'm in.
Oh yeah.
Just fuels.
It's right. It takes a minute or so and then that gone. And then you're like, oh my God, why? I don't need to take a picture of this. This is me. It's all this continuum. That being said, speaking of technology, I think we are, approaching an event horizon of technology. And I think it's not just, AI. And I'd love to get your take on this. And I think we're approaching an event horizon that's everything: financial, humanity, technology, just all of these things coming up in our lifetime. AI being an incredibly scalable, potentially scary thing. And I'd love to get your, thoughts on it, because I'm sure, like everybody uses it to some degree to leverage now. And as I do, and I'm studying it now. But I'd love to get your machinations on it, how you use it, leverage it, good, bad, and ugly. Yeah,
I use AI a lot as a tool. And a lot of the time it really irritates me because it has boundless energy. And I don't, and I need a solve, and then it keeps going.
And then it tells you like, hey, that was a great idea.
Yeah, and it's designed to, as with social media, it's the new social media. It's designed to hook you in to rely on it. I see life as like a balloon. And when you squeeze it at one point, it expands on the other. And I think we needed this balloon to expand what we need from humanity to connect with each other.
Yeah,
I think we're at a tipping point. And it's a tipping point of reconnecting to people. I think we got lost for the last 30 plus years because our communication systems was created by the introverted tech geeks who didn't like talking with people. So they created a system that didn't require them to be connected, that has become a system that presents personas. We're more inspired now and ignited by likes than we are love.
Well said.
And I think, I'm pissed off with AI. In the last 3 days, I've asked people, please don't respond to my question or the advice I need with an AI, because you don't speak like that, one, and it goes on forever.
Yeah.
And I just need just throw me, and David Ogilvy, the ad guru, used to say, if you're going to get a message across, throw one ball, we'll catch it. If you throw 8, I won't catch any. And AI is throwing 800 They are all balls that give you stuff, but you'll never get to the end.
Right.
It's like the biggest challenge in life is your role model should be somebody you know. If it's a romantic role model, somebody like me in the branding, creative industry has perfected that message beyond normality, and you will never achieve it. That was my downfall. I followed my real father's background and inspiration as a role model, but I could never be as good as him. I could never be as loved as him. I could never be as successful as him. And when I wrote my stepfather's eulogy, I realized that he was amazing. He'd helped children. He was knighted for them bringing arts into education. He'd done stuff. But if you rely on Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or whoever, you're only getting one part of the story, which means you'll never achieve the fuller picture. And I think AI is waking us up to, you know what, I want to put that down. I just took the kids away for 2 days up at the jungle house to make log fires and hike and walk with bamboo sticks up ridge. They said it was the best day they've had.
Yeah.
And alternatively, they would be sitting on very stimulating devices, but it doesn't feed holistically.
Yeah.
So I think we're at a pivot point where, as we did with the Industrial Revolution, the agricultural transformations, when the computer was created, it's all, wow, this is the future for sure.
Yeah.
But we cannot evolve as fast as technology. Therefore, we need to be more connected to who we are and why we are and where we are. Yeah. And I think we'll get more, I hope we'll have more appreciation to what we've got and allow the AI and the innovation to help bring more equality and more success and less misery in the world. But you can see what's happening. You know, with AI, wars are fighting now without any conscience. Doesn't require somebody like yourself to be able to navigate right or wrong. It's how it's all programmed.
Outsourcing, cognition, judgment,
There
agency.
is two worlds happening, and we're fueling one world that is not the human world, which is part of a planetary world and doesn't require a planet.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous in how it's regulated. Zuckerberg just got sued for 300 and something million for allowing children to be left. A lot of the policing behind technology has been uncontrolled. My friend Tony Fadell, who created the iPhone, Nest, iPad, hasn't allowed his kids to use it.
Right.
He's got one kid who's a musician, designer, a boxer.
Well, I mean, I think it's the wording when everybody says hey, the users want this. It's like, it's an interesting term. It's not a coincidence for me, you know, and I don't think many people, when you think about it.
Yeah, if you take it back to the simplicity of everyone wants a car, I'd like to get from A to B quicker. Yeah. But when you walk from A to B, you see and feel the world and engage it. And that's where
the speed and scale isn't necessarily the best thing. Yeah,
it may be good for some things, and hopefully it'll be applied to the things that are wrong in the world and need realigning.
Yep.
But I hope that the power and the importance, that's why with Elevation Barn, we're looking at building hotels now and places that are year-round experiences to help people fill up. I go to hotels now and people sit there alone or on phones taking pictures of the food, not eating it or talking. What the fuck's happened?
Yeah.
But I want to create environments where people re-plug in and recharge and become connected and can have impact in their purposes of being what matters in the world.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Altman, now that's a couple of years ago, and then he said it, and I see these, where he said basically, someone asked him, was like, hey, what are people looking for in the future? 5, 10 years. He was like, And it's like funny, it's like he can't even help say it. He's like, oh, they're looking for real, authentic human connection. And I'm like, wow, he can't help but say it, but also marketing to make this most, it's just like, you can't, because it's
herd animals.
But the truth will always pops out.
Always.
And that's the example.
It's like that balloon. You squeeze it here, it will expand there.
Right.
Because humans just want to feel that they matter.
Right.
Be it at home, be it in an environment, be it at work, and that they're good enough. And if you can say to somebody, right, you're good enough, awesome. Yeah. Right, what are all the things that you've got that we can help propel and power forwards?
Yep.
Then that's boundless futures and opportunities to be better.
All right, we're getting close to the end, and this is like my favorite part of this is that the show is called Zen Callsigns.
Right.
And unlike the Marine Corps in military, aviation, And unfortunately, unlike Top Gun, you don't get like cool call signs typically, like Maverick and Viper, when you're in the military. Like it's not it's whatever you did really dumb, then it's like that's that's going to be your call sign. But we don't do that here. So sorry. So yeah.
Okay. I thought I was going to.
But so like that's we can work on something. But do you have anything in mind? Anything that you've ever like a call sign? Because I feel like you've got some good ones.
Call sign in what sense? To indicate that shit's wrong, or like
no, more like what's a cool call sign? Like what's like my call sign in the military is Hank. And so on my first deployment, I was again contrarian Blake Fisher, captain in the Marine Corps, and my bosses, I'm like, and so I basically got this insane haircut and had a mustache, and I looked just like Jim Carrey from Me, Myself, and Irene. And it was just uncanny. And then I played into the role because it's like, you can game it a little bit if you that you didn't do something real dumb. And so I got that call sign. So it's Hank because I just looked like I did the character a little bit. And so it just kind of worked. And that was the best one that I got. Some other guys, like even my dad, and so they came on the ship for a little bit on the way back. And my dad was always like, hey, when's the next dinner? Because it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then midnight ration. So he's just like, and so his call sign is lunch, because he's always like, hey, when are we eating next? Or I have another buddy, his call sign was Tibo, Tibo. And that was after he was in Las Vegas for some trip that they went on, and he went to a strip club, and he was charging, so, he got too drunk, charging the card, and they turned it off. And so he called the credit card company with the strippers to be like, turn it back on. So Tibo. So
got it.
It's just, however, you can maybe be Viper or, Maverick.
I wish I had something that exotic and exciting.
But, we can work on something afterwards. But do you have anything?
I mean, my word for every password.
Well, don't say that.
That is different at the end. Is smashing.
Smashing. Yes.
Yeah. And
well, I think that comes up because, like, Kelly was just like, well, this is a big dude. And again, you play rugby, and in some way, I like, and even for me, Marine is like, I'm a berserker. Like, I'm just, it's in here. It's way in the back.
But I don't see myself as a big guy. I see my wife, who's petite, 5'1", twice the size of me. Scares the shit out of me.
But I like the smashing.
Yeah, I always use smashing. Like, it's my call sign. I've never thought of that before.
Yeah.
But that is my thing. I'm like,
well, because it could be it's like smashing, or that's been smashing time, right? Because it kind of has it can be.
I always go for the second.
Yeah.
Like it's like those questions, like if you say the word safe, is it a baby in the arms or a big steel door? For me, smashing just is a word that lifts me.
Yeah.
I'm like, smashing.
I love that.
I don't, maybe slightly English.
Perfect.
Used to be brilliant, but it's too much blah in the middle of it. Yeah. I never thought of that.
That's a good one. That's
it. People.
Smashing. It is. Yeah. Perfect.
I try and lean on, I try and think of a persona now.
Yeah.
Of a romantic role model that gives me a word that then inspires how I should act. I try and do that a lot. Like I'll sit there and I'll be like, what would David Attenborough do? Here in the wild. You know what I mean? What would he do about his family or his career? And I try and think of a stimuli, a catalyst that allows me to jump into a new perspective.
Yeah.
For somebody I admire, not follow.
So I do that with my kids. I have so I say WWDD, and when they do stuff, or like, what would Dad do? And then I recently bought this domain of what. So Marines and I don't know if we're all Marines, but Marines, U.S. Marines are called jarheads.
I heard that.
So and so it's like, what would jarhead Jesus do? Was something, just that's like, because it's like, all right, Jesus and a it's like, how do it's again always the dichotomy of two different things, just like your word smashing or like safe. It's just I love that play on words, and that's what call signs are, and that's kind of the idea of the show is like, Zen, whatever that is, a way of liberation, and then call signs is like this. In a moment of time, you're like given this maybe real shitty name potentially for something you messed up on, and just like it's diaphanous, but it's just an interesting
I've never even thought of it. I got to unpack that.
Yeah.
How was it? We caught up recently. There was another Marine.
Yeah, Royal
appeared.
Marine. Yeah.
Yeah, and that guy I was diving with him.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that? Having somebody not looking in the mirror, but looking at somebody that came from, like, you can probably kill me with one finger right now.
Yeah.
And it's a different level of thing. But when you're with somebody that's of a similar energy or background, how was your reaction?
I think that there's a mutual respect. Like an instant, because again, that's the
camaraderie, respect level, or understanding.
I think you recognize a killer.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like what I think, because that's where I go. Like how I think is very fundamental in that sense. And
so while he was sitting there, do you think he could kill us all?
I would be like, not me. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like where
it's
like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, but yeah, that's.
I'm glad you're thinking of yourself.
I would defend you guys.
I was sitting next to him. Oh my God. No wonder you were holding that chopstick. Oh, that's hilarious.
But, but we've stayed in touch. We just have communicated, and he's a really cool dude. His story's just nuts.
Extreme.
Very. And that's I think you just recognize that, and, so, and, you see because my wife thinks like I'm intense, like maybe, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I guess so.
Yeah.
But you see that intensity in somebody else, but also you see like the compassion. You see that, I don't know. It's like me too. It's like you see that little boy. You see that the heart, the soul.
Do you feel sympathy for him, or just understanding?
Understanding, yeah, not sympathy. I have that, but that's I think the. It's like, I don't know if it's Sun Tzu said this specifically or something like this, but he's like, if you like love your enemy, which is kind of tough to do, then you can understand him and you understand his weaknesses and have that empathy, and then you can be better at defeating him. And it's
I understand that.
And so, but it's like that. But it's just with anybody, and that's kind of where I talked about as like I'm a scary judge of character, where I'm just, if you're at a point of equanimity and centered, then that is your best place to know what's going to happen. I'm not preparing for anything. I'm just like, because if you're preparing for something to come a certain direction, that means, that you're already going to be reactionary.
Sure.
And so then that's just, I don't know. And like some people are wired that way, I guess, and think that way. And, and so, when you talk about going into the military and you're like, and I had to leave, but it was something that was part of testing my mettle, even though maybe a fallacy, but I've gained a bunch of skills and resiliency from it. And you can't. It wasn't worthless. Yeah, I had an incredible experience, traveled the world, saw things, and but
definitely part 2.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna unravel this. Yeah. Oh my God.
Next time for sure.
Anything
else? Anything I didn't cover or should ask or share or anything like that?
No, I think that was just a beautiful flow. It's interesting because it sparks me with thinking, it's only when you look at the past and you look at the journey, you wonder what's the future. And I often think about that. People come and do the retreats and then become part of the community, wanting to have a prescriptive what's next for my life. And a lot of people get a formula that allow you to get there. But it makes me realize I have no idea what next year will be. No clue. Exactly. I don't know. At every level, will our 14-year-old still be aligned? Will my daughters be married or on what jobs? And where's my wife going to be? Where we're going to be living? And I don't know if I have friends that I'm envious about because they're now retired and they know what they're doing the next 30 years by the day.
I don't know if would be good with that.
I'm not good with it.
Right? I mean,
but am I jealous? How cool would that be?
Yeah.
But I think we're designed differently of how we look. Like my mind, I'm ADD and dyslexic, and and
that's something that I same.
Yeah.
You know, like I
And
grew
so our
up that
mind's
we're-
very short-term, thinking of 1,000 things now.
But I think I recognize that as a superpower.
It's a
in
superpower.
itself.
But then you've got the other, with a superpower, like the pendulum swing.
Yeah.
It's great at this, but then where's this? And the key is to how do you build
Right.
your superpower down to an area of support so you can
Indeed.
expand to other areas.
Yes.
Otherwise, you become not myopic, but you become very,
Right.
very focused in one area.
Yeah.
But I think my takeaway is to think, I don't know where the future's going. I didn't know where the future would go when I was younger and where I got to here, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm going to be okay for the future.
Yeah.
Just be with the right people, doing the thing that's the right thing in your heart, and just follow the road. If it's tiring or it's hurting or it's not right, stop. If the people are the same, if you've only got 6 seats around your well-being table of life, and if somebody's sitting there that pulls you down, ask them to get up and leave and allow somebody new to sit down. But the key is to ensure that you just enjoy the journey. It's a short one.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
I mentioned 3 friends that have inspired my life that are no longer with us.
Wow.
And I wish they were. And therefore, how do I maximize what we've got now? And how are we present? Yeah,
Agreed.
It's an exciting journey.
Well, can you list out where you're located, like where you can find you online, where everybody can go?
Elevation Barn, BARN,
Okay.
.com is there. If it's personal about me, Will Travis,
Okay.
just has a little bit more detail. And I think my key message for anybody is if they're in transition and they haven't found the process to help get through, I found a hack. And gift yourself that space, that reassurance, that process that you are. If often people say, it feels awful asking for help, but it means you're committed. It means, like you in the military, if you're calling in backup, it means that you found a solution.
Right.
And you're going to be there. But we often don't. I think humanity's punished itself with this belief of a hero's journey of, being the best and being better and all that. But it's lent itself to a lot of loneliness and sadness and be part of a kindred quest. And with a quest, you don't know where you're going, but you're all moving in a direction. And that really makes me happy is when good people get together, have good times. Like we did the other morning, bumping into each other in the Gillies, just had breakfast and a cup of coffee and chatting. And I'm like, that was an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
The rest, like watching a movie, the rest of the world stopped still at that point.
Indeed.
I wasn't anywhere else. I was enjoying it. And that's what it's about.
Likewise. Thank you for your time, Will.
I love
pleasure.
that. Yeah, spectacular.
Thank you.
I have no idea what the clock says, but
We're right on time.
oh, that's amazing. Excellent. That was the best 10 minutes I've ever talked.
All right.
To. Yeah,
That was
fantastic.
awesome.
And we'll follow up and do another one. Great environment.